Good day everyone. Welcome to Prysmian. Welcome to our Sustainability and Innovation Day for 2024. We are delighted to have you here. So thank you to those of you who took the time to come here in presence, but of course a warm welcome to those who are following online. Safety first. There are no tests planned for today, so if you hear an alarm, make your way, if you find space, to the closest exit. Sustainability and innovation, two extremely important drivers of our strategy, organic and non-organic, and this is one of our most relevant events in our stakeholders' engagement process. But before getting into the heart of the agenda of today, allow me to call on stage our partner for today, Andrea Cabrini from Class CNBC.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Buongiorno, Cristina. Well, Cristina, thanks for having me and Class Editori as a partner. We are live today also on the Milano Finanza website. So this is a very special event, which is in a new format that combines sustainability and innovation. So we'll discuss how the business strategy, the Prysmian business strategy, integrates and completes sustainability strategy, what's the role of innovation, and how to accelerate transition with the engagement of your key shareholders. Just to give a brief introduction, we'll have with the CEO introductory remarks, then a session on the new value chains, and then the four business units will discuss with customers the relation between innovation and sustainability in the diverse field. So we are ready to start. We have to fix something with the mic, I suspect, but we do have a video for opening the morning. Please.
Energy accounts for 75% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and this has to go down.
It is not too late. We can, you can, prevent planetary crash and burn.
We're going to have a blended mix of state and markets working through this.
On putting both wind and solar in the buildings, taking energy off the grid.
The transition's not going to happen overnight.
I know, it's AI all the time these days, right?
The global economy will have doubled in size and will be serving a population of over 10 billion.
Energy efficiency takes such a prominent role.
All right, this was our video introduction, but let's start with Massimo Battaini, Prysmian CEO. Welcome, Massimo. Good morning. Buongiorno, Massimo.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, Massimo, you were here in this event before, but this is your first time as a CEO, and as a brand new CEO, well, you didn't waste time because a full reorganization and then the largest acquisition in Prysmian history in the US, which is a country that you know very well.
Yes, you're right. First of all, thank you everyone. I see a huge attendance. I think today we have all our stakeholders represented here, from bankers, customers, vendors, journalists, analysts, and probably have to plan to expand the auditorium because I don't see that there is room for everyone. But this is nice to see a great sign of attendance, because it means that for us, sustainability is important, but also for you all, or our stakeholders, consider sustainability an important element of our industry. I like to remark how this journey has started in Prysmian. We have been working on sustainability since probably 2014, 15. I was not here. Probably you can tell better. But when things changed was in 2021. I remember that I came back from by assignment in North America. And in February 21, we received a letter from investors. A letter for investors, or a group of investors, I don't remember what it was, a group of investors telling us, when are you going to be more serious about sustainability? So despite we worked a lot on sustainability before, we had not made any impact back then into the sustainability journey. So since then, we started doing things more seriously. We created ambassador in our regions. We created targets. We put sustainability in our remuneration policy. We create committed. We defined the project. We define how to spend 100 million worth of euros to decarbonize our footprint, scope 1 and scope 2. And we started working on scope 3, so how to reduce the emission of cables for our customers, for benefit our customers. So we didn't know where we were heading for. We wanted to do a lot of things, and we put a lot of efforts in this place, in this journey, knowing that one day we would have benefited from this journey, from this effort. So the day where we started reaping the benefit of what we invested was at the Capital Market Day last year, when we told clearly to the market, we have a vision, we have a strategy, connected to lead is our strategy. We have goals for 25 and 27, but we clearly stated that sustainability was and is one of the drivers to support the organic growth of the company. So sustainability turned in that moment from being an investment in KPIs, social ambitions, climate reduction, in being something that drives the business forward. And to connect to what you said, Andrea, a few months later, we gave another example how sustainability is important in our strategy. We also apply sustainability not only to the organic growth, but also to the M&A. So we are about to acquire in a few days, we are only a few days away from the closing of this large deal in North America, a company which represents the best way to explain sustainability in the cable industry. They are a player in Texas, which is probably not the most renowned place for sustainable products.
But transition is transition.
But transition is transition for everyone, right? So they work in the industrial and construction space, which is this segment of business where we electrify buildings. So they are a player in the electrification for residential space, non-residential, and also player for the digital transformation, because the electrification data centers help the whole world to be more digital. They are also unique in the sense they have everything concentrated in one single place. The raw material they produce inside, the copper, sorry for our suppliers, but the rod is produced by them on site, compound is produced on site, installation compound is also produced on site, and they turn this raw material into cable in a larger campus where they produce, you don't have probably any reference, but they produce 250,000 tons of cable in the same place. 1/5 of the total volume that Prysmian produce worldwide. And also have a fully verticalized stream in the distribution center, which is still on site. So great example of sustainability. No distribution, no waste of cost or emission of CO2. And on top of this, they also work with recycled copper and recycled PVC and recycled compound. And probably the best way to explain how round is this sustainability journey for Anchor Wire is the business case. They have been able to turn a commodity business, because industrial construction is, Serena, you can tell later to everyone, is simple cables, building wire, copper building wire, aluminum building wire. This is the most commoditized place or segment of business we have in this cable industry, into a niche, not size-wise, but into a niche in terms of EBITDA margin. They make the highest possible margin in this segment of business thanks to the service level. So they've been able to innovate what it was not possible to innovate. Cable is standard, is a commodity. They innovate and differentiate themselves through the service level. So this is, I think, one of the best examples how you can be sustainable across all KPIs. And this is one of the reasons why we decided to choose and buy and acquire and integrate in a while these large American players.
Oh, sounds great, Massimo, but we'll have more on this later. I know that you wrapped up some of these ideas and values in a new corporate video. Let's have a look at that. Well, Christina, this is, the vision, but being sustainable, it also takes being accountable. And your stakeholder audience here is getting larger. Yes, you need a bigger auditorium as well in the future. But how do you turn this vision into facts, into evidence? How do you keep tracking this in terms of also the metrics of all the engagement that you do have in the targets?
This is a very good question, Andrea, and then this is a real challenge, making sure that you set priorities as a company and then you translate priorities into KPIs that are reliable, that are rigorous, and that are impactful, to the point that are impactful not only for Prysmian, but for the value chain, for customers, for suppliers, for all our stakeholders. This is the reason why we went for the climate change science-based target, validated, and we keep upgrading the target because we want to promote the decarbonization across the value chain. This is also related to our business and sustainable sales. We have also these KPIs where we try to go beyond the taxonomy and to define products and solutions that are helpful for our customers. I'm sure you know that we launched in 2020, for example, our first green label, which was also the first green label of the industry, was Eco Cable. And it was a label we put on products which fulfills 6 strict environmental friendly criteria. We are evolving this concept to go beyond and to embrace our new strategy and to provide solutions. So the 6 criteria are still there and are still rigorous, but we want again to put it to serve our customers' pathways, our suppliers' pathways, the planet pathways, and we are naming this now EPATH, which is our global brand related to green solutions, which go beyond cables.
EPATH.
EPATH.
Let's have a look at EPATH. enough, Christina. As you know, as journalists, we are, reporting transition, and we know that sometimes talking about marketing, companies tends to give new names to old stuff. How is this different? Is this just a renaming, or what is this?
No, this is, Andrea, again, we talk to our customers, we push our suppliers, and the idea is to integrate their feedback, to offer them solutions which is fit for their purpose. So we started, of course, with our priorities and where we think our industry should go, but the evolution, again, is just not the labeling, is part of the follow-up of the engagement with our customers. And we also want to push and to promote. This is the reason why we are also working with suppliers. Yesterday we hosted here the suppliers conference, because we think that our role is to go beyond. And as a leader in our industry, we should somehow, again, embrace suppliers and customers that somehow follow our own priorities.
Yeah, other example, transmission, for example, in the transmission
absolutely,
space.
Absolutely. In transmission, for sure, it's, of course, the business which is enabling the transition to green energy. Of course, this is one of the best examples, but it's also power grids. All the utilities are investing in the grid to facilitate the transition to the green energy, but also to the transition to a more electrified world. And then, of course, the digital solutions fall in as well in the convergence of these trends.
Absolutely. And Massimo, we discussed the integration of business strategy and sustainability strategy. And when it comes to making investment decisions, when it comes to business, how do you integrate the two?
Since sustainability is really a driver of growth, we try to invest where there is opportunity to display our ability to convert the current product range into sustainable product range. We really wanted to drive sustainability through the whole value chain. So we need suppliers on the one end to help us gain more access to recycled material, because the same recycled material comes into our products and turns into low carbon product for our customer. So we know that this is a way to help customers to decarbonize their footprint. Customers have the same objective as we do, because this is the beauty of supply chain and the sustainability chain. So we help customers by decarbonizing our product, we have customers decarbonize their product as well. So we are linked, we are in the same boat, and this is why we turn sustainability into a driver for business. We are happy to work with our customer, strengthening our relationship, cementing our relationship, also combining electrical performance, luxury with sustainability performance. And bear in mind that for a cable industry, it's a big challenge to invest in sustainable products, because the cable is an electrical piece of material that aids impurity, contaminants, and we put with recycled copper, with recycled polyethylene, by design, some dirty material inside cables. So this makes the challenge of R&D extremely difficult, extremely tough, but this is where the power of Prysmian comes out. We are able to combine innovation in performance, electrical performance, mechanical performance, with sustainability to provide this sustainable product to the market. The investment in the 525 technology is another example as how we make the sustainability journey, sustainability transition in the world more financially viable. The 525 kV cables transmit twice the power of the 320 kV, as all the customers that are seated here know very well, for a little marginal cost. So the cost per megawatt transmitted is half. So you need half of the cables that you would have needed a few years ago to transmit the same power, meaning that the financial impact, the financial exposure for those projects gets lower and lower, enabling more energy transition to happen in a more sustainable way.
Well, Maria Cristina, there's a problem because, transition and sustainability is everywhere, also internally the company, but resources are not infinite. And, to talk financial resources, money, you talk capital, human capital, you talk raw materials. And how do you make your decision to, decide the priority and where to allocate your resources?
This is another very important challenge, Andrea. And then, of course, as a company, you set priorities that are consistent with your strategy, but then you need to make sure that your priorities fit with your customers' priorities, with your stakeholders' priorities. And then it's important also to have the right governance, which means trying to combine the global view with the local view. And then, of course, to be challenged. I think that, as Massimo was mentioning earlier, the step up came after 2021 when we enriched the governance, when the top management, when the board of directors was putting a lot of attention on sustainability. Sustainability was started to become a point in the agenda of the board. And I think this helped a lot to accelerate some trends and to make, again, sustainability into everyday discussion.
You mentioned the board, and so today, to step up the discussion, we're delighted to have here Ines Consi, who's chairwoman of the Prysmian Sustainability Committee and member of the board. Welcome, Ines. Let's have an applause for Ines. And I think you can take a seat. You can take a seat, finally. As we discussed, you know, when the board steps in, it's delicate. And so let's go on with the discussion, because Ines Consi, I would like to understand what's the approach of the board, sustainability? How do you play it?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that it's a huge honor and pleasure to be here today and to give you the perspective of the Prysmian board in this very important meeting today. In terms of governance, I think that's a key component of sustainability in the corporate context, and the role of the board in that cannot be overstated. And Prysmian, in a way, started to work on sustainability relatively early in 2014, but it has found its way into the board relatively late. So the Sustainability Committee was established, and I might be wrong because I heard some different numbers today, but I heard it was in 2020. I wasn't there yet. But ever since it was established and it became a topic on the board agenda, a lot has been achieved. I think that's very, very clear to be said. Good thing is that management is really convinced of the necessity of creating a sustainable world and creating the products to do that, but also doing as little harm as possible while doing that. That really helps the board discussion as well. The board's role mostly is to define ambitious and actionable goals and then following up on them, but also to give advice, for example, on when best to get involved in certain organizations like the SPDI that was already mentioned, the Science-Based Target Initiative, but also to decide which organization not to get involved with yet or not at all, because there's a lot of organizations that are kind of like competing to get the attention of companies. So we do challenge management to do more, to do the best they can, to really go beyond, but we also have management's back. And that is when the need to create long-lasting financial value conflicts with the need or the wish to create a sustainable future. So this is also our role to do that.
And so, first of all, Massimo, how do you react to the challenges that comes from the board when it comes down to sustainability?
We listen, and no, sorry, I'm joking. No, we have a very constructive approach in our board, and not necessarily only sustainability. This is not the Prysmian board is not the board where we have people arguing and fighting to each other or challenging and all these type of things. They are constructing discussion, and we like a lot to have some different views to provide a different perspective of the market, different perspective coming from different industries, different way of doing things. Now we are here to learn. We learn from the integration, we learn from the company that we acquire, we want to learn from customers, we want to learn from vendors, we want to learn from everyone, because there is always something to understand and to copy, to introduce, embed in our company. So the constructing interaction with the board is extremely helpful. Most of the time we come to the the Sustainability Committee with our projects, the update and so on, we receive compliments on the one end and also challenges to do something different. And so this is a nice way to enrich our actions, our way of working in sustainability journey, as well in the strategy, as well in everything else, as we do with the board.
Is Massimo and the management a good listener? Are you happy with the interaction?
I go out if I chance.
Nobody's listening, Ines, so you feel free.
No, he definitely is. Yeah, it's amazing how receptive the management team is to the topic, but even more impressive how strongly the whole organization is committed to the topic.
And it's interesting because we discuss sustainability, but also innovation. And how do you play also your role when it comes to some of the innovation that we already heard today?
Yeah, innovation is a very important factor when it comes to sustainability. And I was talking about challenging the management team, and maybe let me give you one example on where we challenged the team, and that is on SF6 gas. I think we have a pretty knowledgeable audience here, but just for those that might not be familiar with it, it's one of the most potent greenhouse gases, and it was the primary most important source of scope 1 emissions for Prysmian. It has 23,000 times more greenhouse gas emission potential than CO2, so it's really potent. And the management has presented us with a plan to reduce it to almost zero, the emissions, within a time frame of 4 years. And in the board, in the sustainability committee, we challenged them and said, well, what would you need to be able to do it in 2 years? And I thought at the time, I was like, well, that's a big challenge. I mean, they come already with an ambitious plan, but let's see what sparks their creativity. And then I think it was like 5 or 6 months later, Srini came back to the sustainability committee and said, that was great. That was a great challenge, and we made it. We will be able to reduce it in 2 years' time, with the bulk of the reduction even happening in the first year. Yeah, so that to me was an example of innovation, creativity, and the commitment of the whole organization. Last night I had the pleasure of meeting some of the other, I know Srini, but some of the other people that were involved in the project, and they all really enjoyed that they could do something so meaningful for the planet.
Well, very interesting, because Massimo, sometimes we report that governance is felt like a constraint sometimes by top managers, as a constraint in the velocity that they would like to have in the run to innovation or whatever it is, business targets. And this that just Ines made is an example of a growth of engine, the discussion inside the board for enhancing the company's performance.
Definitely, this was the case for sustainability, but it's been the case also for the strategy. So we had been receiving a lot of challenges from the board, and also from investors. And all the time was, all the challenges were aimed at creating more value, extracting more value from this company. As long as we extract more value, we provide more value for shareholders, we provide more value for our people. But by the way, 50% of our people are shareholders of the company. So we are really open to this type of interaction with the board, with investors, with analysts, with all the stakeholders of our industries.
Well, Ines, when it comes to governance, there are different models out there when it comes to integrate sustainability. Do you think there's any international best practice that you look at when you think at how to organize the governance here?
I am currently on 4 ESG committees in 4 different companies, and I used to be on 2 more. So I think I have a pretty good view. All industrial.
You're a specialist.
All industrial companies, and I have to say, I think Prysmian does set a standard, both in terms of the intensity with which the committee is working on the topics, with the interaction with the whole organization, which is also very important, and with what is happening after. So you have in some companies, you might have a committee and you discuss certain topics, and then nothing much happens afterwards. And that's definitely not the case in Prysmian. So management really takes up the challenges and finds solutions, as I said, creativity and enthusiasm for the topic.
Well, Ines, in the last decade, when companies started to practice sustainability, the biggest conundrum was the metric, the international standards and KPIs. How to be accountable if you cannot measure exactly or give the market and stakeholders the right metrics. How would you approach the KPIs, progress, and would you think we are today?
That is a difficult topic, to be honest, because the whole standards. First of all, Europe is leading in the sense of how far along they are in terms of non-financial reporting. Which is good and bad in a way. If you're not leading, you can learn from the mistakes of the others. Yeah, that's what North America is trying to do now, at least in my view. And so in Europe, there's still a lot of finding the right way and the right level of reporting that is useful for stakeholders. Because right now, there's a lot of work that is being done that does not create value, in my view. It has to be done by companies because they have to comply with it. But I think the real work is in a different place, and it's not well reflected in the reporting requirements that exist today. So I always tell companies that I'm involved in, do what you need to do to comply with reporting. Don't do more on that side, because it does not create value. Focus the energy more on really creating change within your organization and within your supply chain. And there, to be honest, I don't know how much Prysmian is involved in helping shape the standards in a way that they reflect more that creating change part and not complying with reporting guidelines. Yeah, so because that, I think we're not at the end of this. We need to find a better way of making progress more comparable also between different players, which is not the case today.
And this is crucial also in the largest debate about sustainability, too much formal compliance versus what's the substance of what companies can do. And clearly there's kind of what we report is that in financial markets, outside of financial market, there's a sense of kind of backlash. That was too much, especially in Europe. And you mentioned Europe is leading on one hand, but there's a reaction on the way. So what do you make of this, for example, given the situation in Europe, Massimo?
But we see that the energy transition and digital transformation are anyway drivers happening everywhere, no? And but to different extent, with different focus, with different sensitivity also from different customers. Europe is definitely very much involved in the renewable generation, more than any other countries, in connecting countries with someone in connection to let the renewable energy flow from one place to another, connecting the wind offshore park to the distribution area where the consumption is. So renewable generation means that you are investing to replace a fossil fuel generation with renewable generation. So to a certain extent, it's a kind of wasted money because you already have the energy, but you want to make it clean. Why in other countries, like in North America, they are not investing much in turning or shifting away from fossil fuel generation into renewable. They are investing much more in the electrification. So users are moving away from gas application-based energy into electricity-based applications. And so in the United States, you see customer and government supporting more the investment in infrastructure, so the private grid deployment, the electrification of buildings, while in Europe you see the generation. And then there are all different sorts of behavior from customers. Someone very keen in adding gigawatts, and someone very keen in strengthening the power grid. All I see is that while in the last 20 years we have cyclicality in our business, and this is a frequent question that we receive from our investors. You see cyclicality in the 5 years coming forward. You see strong demand in electrification today, maybe a drop in demand in 5 years. The answer, in my view, is no, because we see a trajectory that has started a few years ago, which will lead to the famous net zero at some point. It might not well be 2050, it will be some time in the future. It will be different time for different countries, for different regions, but this is a defined trajectory. no one is thinking to go back and reverse everything that's been deployed so far. Of course, the world will proceed with different speed and with different focus. But we are happy to adjust ourselves, and that's why we consider ourselves innovative in the sense that we are flexible, adjustable, and agile in this dynamic world to support the energy transition and digitalization everywhere, where whatever is the speed it takes in a different country with the different customers.
Christina, jump in the discussion. What's your take on this?
It's extremely important, and I share the view of Ines and Massimo. I think that the main message is the trajectory is there, the journey started, and then the role of the leaders is trying to engage and to adapt and to be agile, because undeniable Europe started earlier, and undeniable we have regulations and frameworks that on one side represent a constraint, on the other side somehow they force the change. So somehow they are helping companies, if companies take it the right way, to accelerate some paths and to integrate sustainability into finance, into the business, into the operations. On the other side is you need to listen to the local needs. And in the US, it's less the generation, but for example, it's the need to invest in infrastructure. And so you sit down with customers and you understand with them what's from their view the most sustainable solution. We are impressed when we talk to some of our US customers how sensitive they are on green solutions, having the recycled content, the recyclability of the cable. So there is not one unique solution, but the role of the leader is to be able, through the R&D, through the innovation, to offer a solution which fits the purpose and to be perceived as an enabler of the change. And this is for us, for example, a big opportunity in the US, where our history, our being European, having started earlier, which will allow us to play our role in the US, where probably our competitors are not there yet. But it's a nice competition. Honestly, we like the idea of others following this direction because it's a healthy competition.
Absolutely, and talking competition, this is crucial also for international global competition. Europe looking at the US on one hand, Asia and China on the other hand. We are not here to talk top jobs in the EU, but the new commission will for sure take probably a different stance, even if it will be Ursula von der Leyen again, but it will be a different Ursula, apparently, versus what happened in the last 5 years. And Ines, I would like to end with your point of view on this.
Yes, first of all, I think companies have to find their way within the regulatory framework that they're working in. And even if that might be shifting in Europe to become maybe a bit less strict on some points, I think the train has left the station in a way, so, and it can't be stopped. And that is also the feedback that I'm getting from other companies, that even if there is some kind of walk back, the whole corporate world, or most of the corporate world in Europe, really wants to have this change happening. And so in a way, we might be moving a bit more to the US model, where there's less regulation and less and much more the view of wanting to do this, of creating the sustainable future together, and making money all along the way, which sometimes in Europe is seen as going contrary to sustainability, which I think is extremely hurting the cause, because you can make money by creating this sustainable change. And it shouldn't be seen as a negative side effect of it, but rather really the core of the corporate activity.
Absolutely.
This is what
yeah.
we notice very much. When we compare United States to Europe, you appreciate how complicated it is in Europe to make things happen, why it is very simple in the United States to make things proceed at a fast pace. Because one region moving at the same pace in the same direction like North America is unique. When they take a decision, wrong or right it be, they take it and they go ahead. In Europe, you always find someone opposing, someone objecting, someone raising his hand, flagging an issue up. So there is no one single direction for the European countries, for the European region. So we call it Europe, but it's not Europe yet. And I don't know whether it will be a European region one day. We will try to make ourselves a European region one day, but the country, the region is still not ready for one economy, one social direction, one political direction, and one sustainability direction, which is a problem for companies like us involved and engaged in the supply chain or the energy transition, because you don't know how to redirect, how to shape, how to define the pace of investing to support the industry, because there are sometimes turning points, there are sometimes setbacks, there are sometimes issues that pop up that were not expected. So this is the problem of Europe, impacting us, but probably impacting most of the industry.
This is an existential challenge for the future of Europe. You know, Mario Draghi says we need radical reform. President Macron and Scholz said Europe is risking a lethal exit. But, I mean, we shall see, but it's really, really important what the company and the industry will be able to do to allow the train to have the right speed, cruise speed, and not to slow down, not just because of regulation, but because the industry take a different role. But this is not the case. Thanks again, Massimo Battaini, Maria Cristina Bifulco, Ines Comsi. Thanks for introducing the main themes. I think we already have some excellent food for thought, but before entering in the new value chains discussion, I would like to give you a couple of information because we are here for you and for the interaction. So there's a couple of things that I can show you. The first one is a QR code that you can use, and I suggest that you immediately take out your smartphone and you take a picture of this and you fix it on your smartphone, because here is the poll along Prysmian, meaning that we are asking you to answer some question along the morning and the afternoon to give us the sense of what the room here thinks about some of the things that we are discussing. And you will find immediately the first couple of questions that anticipate the discussion we're going to have in the first panel. And just to introduce this, the first question is, considering Prysmian's value chain, which emission category is most significant among Scope 1, 2, and 3? I had to read it 3 times because I was wondering how would I answer this, but clearly you have a very clear idea. And apparently you're very fast. Let's take a few seconds to see how are you responding. Scope 1 is around 20%. Scope 3 is clearly the large majority. All right, this is stabilizing, meaning that you have been voting, and it's pretty clear that the room here has a very clear, precise idea. And indeed, it is Scope 3 with 76%, and almost all of you took it right. But there's the second and the following question, which is even more specific, and I'm asking the gallery to move forward to the second one. And considering Prysmian, okay, and this was, okay, 3 different alternatives. Which is the percentage among the 3 of them? Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3, and Srini is saying, it's easy, it's easy, you say. Indeed. It's a consequence, and indeed, the first one, close to 80%. I can tell you, this was the official Prysmian's response, the first one. 77, 99, 77%, it's Scope 3, which is the most difficult to state and measure in any case. All right, thanks for, having the first experience with questions, but there's another way to interact with the speakers that will follow, which is asking questions or suggesting ideas through a very easy to use channel, which is SMS and WhatsApp. And this is the number, it's +39 for every one of you outside of Italy. It's +39 335 7085 439. Again, take a picture. If you have any question, I will turn your questions to the speaker here. But, okay, take a picture. We are ready to go for introducing the following panel, a video. And to discuss the new value chain, I leave the floor now to Laura Colli, Chief Purchasing Officer of Prysmian. Welcome, Laura. The floor is yours. Good morning.
It works? Okay, very good. Good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to kick off this discussion today in tandem with two key strategic partners for us who cooperating with Prysmian since many years. But before moving to the panel, just let me spend a couple of minutes on exploring the idea of partnership that you're going to see in the title of the panel. So yesterday, we had a super exciting event in this auditorium. It was a supplier conference with many suppliers which are here today. And we share strategy, insight, how we can partnering for the future and shaping the future together. So we touch even several aspects of sustainability as foundation of our long-term strategy. So, and then the question today is, how do we do that? So then, so what we want to do is, as a Prysmian, is working with the key partners based upon their ESG approach, ESG plans long term, and how our partners, they contribute to make a more sustainable ecosystem. So, by the way, we know that in such an environment so dynamic, so complex, in front of this challenging, we cannot operate in an isolated way. We need to work together. And this is the reason why we use the word partner. So let's start the panel. So, and I'm going to call on the stage the two panelists, Thomas Reuter, the Vice President Energy by Borealis.
Hello, everybody.
And Nigel Stewart, the Chief Scientist by Rio Tinto. Okay, thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you, Thomas, to be here. It's our pleasure to have this kind of discussion. It's so interesting for us. So, and let's start this panel talking about energy transition. So in Prysmian, we like to say we are part of a global pathway for reaching energy transition. Thomas, what about the role of Borealis in this transition path?
Yeah, thanks for having us here. So Borealis is in the business in 60 years, roughly, producing compounds for the energy cable producers. And we enable till now more than 300,000 tons of high voltage cables production and more than 10,000 of tons of EHV cable production. For us, the global approach is very important. I mean, we heard it before. I think it all starts in Europe at the moment. There's a strong momentum, but I think it will not stop here. Other regions will go in the similar direction. We heard US very strong as well. Once they take a decision, they go. And that's why we also expand our global footprint. We open facilities in US, in Korea, in Middle East. So we're also expanding globally. But it doesn't stop there, right? We also want to contribute our part to it. And you see here a bit our figures. Our machinery, whatever we want to produce, is electrified. So we use electricity. And we want to use 100% renewable electricity in 2030. Today we have already achieved 38%. So it's a journey to go, but we are on the move and we want to achieve it by 2030. We are coming from a way where we have more than 5 million tons of CO2 emissions. Chemical industry is a very high emitter, but we want to get that down. We have it already on the journey down, and by 2030 we want to get to 2 million, so less than half of what we are having today. And then you see another number here, 12,883 of non-emergent flaring. So we have waste in our process. Until now, the waste in the chemical industry is flared into the atmosphere. We started a journey and we reduced already in the last year by 10%. And we want to reduce it further and accelerating it by 2030 to zero. So we want zero waste in our production, zero flaring, non-emergency flaring. If there's a process issue, you have to flare. It's a safety requirement. But everything that is a waste to the process, we want to eliminate by 100% and go to zero. So I think it started here. Every company has to contribute. We embarked as well on the journey like Prysmian, and we see that Europe is only a starting point and it will extend globally.
Thank you, Thomas. A very exciting journey to run together. So, Nigel, what about Rio Tinto?
Well, in the case of Rio Tinto, our purpose as a company is to provide the materials that society needs. And in particular, when you think about one of the key needs of society is to address the energy transition and to address climate change. And we're a very important part of that journey. We produce iron ore for steel making for the infrastructure build-out. We produce copper and aluminium, which are the electrical conductors of the world. And we also produce, and will be producing lithium and producing titanium and borates and other chemicals. For us, when you look at the energy transition and what that means for us as society, when you think about the fact that 30 years ago, 87% of our energy needs were provided by fossil fuels, and then you look today, and it's 83% of our energy is provided by fossil fuels. So we've only had a 4% reduction in our greening of the world in a way. And that really, for me, exemplifies the challenge that we face as society. We need to move at pace, and that's one of the key elements of the energy transition. What it means for us as a company in terms of providing those materials, if you think about something like copper, it's estimated that over the next 30 years, we'll need to produce 700 million tons of copper. To put that in context, that's more copper than we've produced in human history. So what we've done in 5,000, 6,000 years, we've now got to do in 30. It's a similar case for aluminium. Over the next 10 years, CRU estimates that demand for aluminium, just for renewable energy, is going to grow by 31%. So not only do we have to move at pace, we've got to really change the speed, change the speed and the volume of what we produce. So with that, and you think about the challenge, we know we're going to need to partner, and partnerships are going to be very important. I think Laura and Massimo have expressed that. We can't do this alone, and we need to work with people. And this is one of the things that we've been doing. We've been working with our competitors, our customers, our suppliers, with governments and government laboratories, and also universities to try and take us on that journey. We as a company were 150 years old last year, and we created the Rio Tinto Center for Future Materials to try and sort of foster innovation to help us bring the world in to solve some of these challenges. We've been investing in startups and partnerships with startups who are creating new technologies that can solve climate change problems, climate change challenges to address the energy transition. And of course, we're partnering with our customers, and in particular, Prysmian is one of our key strategic partners.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move to the next. So innovation through sustainability. So we see that innovation and sustainability go hand in hand. And then I was remembering some comment by Massimo. He said, our innovation is making the energy transition more affordable. So I know, Nigel, Rio Tinto is investing in research and development a quite consistent amount of dollars. So then we are curious, how do you developing new projects towards a really more sustainable pathway?
Well, I can talk to 3 projects, and I think like Prysmian, we have CO2 reduction targets. And if you think about the energy transition, we have to provide all of these materials, but of course it doesn't make any sense if we don't provide them with a zero carbon footprint and also a much improved ESG footprint. And this is really where the innovation space comes in. So we have a commitment like Prysmian to reduce our CO2 emissions by 50% by 2030 and be at net zero by 2050. So there are three interesting things that we're doing that I'll highlight. We're working across the board on all of our commodities, but I'll highlight just three which I think are pertinent to the audience here today. The first is in aluminium. Today, 80% of our aluminium is produced with renewable electricity. This means that we have a very, very low carbon footprint compared to the industry average. The industry average for aluminium smelting is about 12 tons of CO2 per ton of aluminium, and we're operating at around 2. And our next step is to try and take that down to 0. So what we've been doing is we've been addressing a key challenge that's been with the aluminium industry for many years, which is how to create a non-carbon anode that we use in aluminium smelting. And we've created, with partnerships with Alcoa, with Apple, and the governments of Canada and Quebec, a new technology called ELYSIS, where we've proven at the pilot scale we can produce aluminium with a 0 carbon footprint from that smelting process. So that's the first example. So you can see the way we're gradually going down to 0. The second one I want to highlight is really one about data and the transparency of data, so that customers and end customers in society can make better decisions. So we report, for example, our Scope 1 and 2 emissions for every site in every region in our businesses. We also report our Scope 3 emissions annually as well. Secondly, for our direct customers, we provide life cycle analyses, cradle to grave reporting for our products, and we do that to ISO standards. We also can provide customers with environmental product declarations that enable them to put this into their ESG reports and also support their applications for LEED buildings, things like that, and BREEAM. But the thing that I'm most excited about in the innovation space for us is a digital platform that we've created that uses blockchain. It's called START, or our START label. And what this enables a customer to do is to observe right from the mine, right the way through to our end product that we provide, the full environmental reporting and ESG reporting of that product. And we use up to 14 ESG metrics for that. The final innovation that I'll talk about is in relation to copper. And this is something that's where we're starting to embrace circularity in our copper business. We've created a new technology called Newton. And Newton is quite unique because it enables us to source copper from copper sources that are currently inaccessible in terms of ore body, but more importantly, it can access copper from waste. So we're going back to our waste and seeing how we can produce and release copper units into the world using that new technology.
Very good. We are super exciting about all the projects you're running up, and then we want to be on top of the list when we're gonna move to industrialization, because we know you are working for some pilot, then very exciting. Thank you very much. So, Thomas, we discussed several times about innovation and polyethylene, how we can improve the content of recycling, and we can make it more affordable. Tell me more.
So yes, I mean, we have, and you see here in the numbers, we have roughly 500 R&D people that are working in 4 different markets. One of the innovation centers purely dedicated to the energy business that we are having. And we are trying to innovate there on efficiency till now. So efficiency for our customers, that they can produce the cables more efficient, faster, more output, and also then efficiency in having the cable into action, right? Transporting more energy through it. But we also have a challenge, right? We in Borealis have a business unit that is called Circular Economy Business Unit. We developed their solutions for other markets, like the packaging market that went a bit earlier, for mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, renewable feedstock use. And now we have to combine the two. So we have to combine in our innovation process, together with our customers, with Prysmian, we're starting projects on leveraging this experience now also into the energy business. And I think that's the approach. We don't have to innovate everything from scratch. There are solutions out there, and we have it even in-house because some markets moved first, and we developed already some business units around that, and we have now the beauty to leverage that into other units, like the energy business, and we are happy to collaborate there already with Prysmian.
Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you. So move to the next, which is a circular economy concept. It's quite a broad concept. So, and in Prysmian, we want to be very focused on recycled material. We already discussed yesterday in our supplier conference. We have set a clear and ambitious target on recycled content in our product, which is a combination of copper, recycled, and polyethylene for jacket. So then it is like a clear signal we are taking it seriously. So, and then we need for sure of your support, your commitment, your collaboration to achieve even greater results along the years. So we know that sometimes we are talking about a trade-off of a circular economy and competitive business. So, Thomas, what do you think about that? What is your opinion, and how are we going to overcome this barrier?
So I think for us in Borealis, and you see it here, very complex slide, but it is circular, right? And wherever you are in the circle, you have different solutions that can make a sustainable business model, right? So I think it starts also, we are polymer producers, so we start from producing the polymer. And then the first thing is to design it a way that we use as less material as possible, right? That's the first way. We also look for solutions where our material can be reused. And the next one is design for recyclability. Not everything that is put on the market is easy to recycle. But if you start in the design phase already and you make it easy to recycle, you can easily then fit it into the process. So that's the first 3 steps where we are thinking. And then there's the use, right? We all use the product, we reuse it, but it ends up in the waste. And then in the waste, you have to embark a few journeys. So we, as a company, we bought 3 recyclers because we want to also have access to the feedstock. So we go first and look if it's mechanical recyclable. Is there a business case to mechanical recycle, bring it back into an upcycling and reuse it? If that is not possible, the next step would be chemical recycling, right? You have to bring it back into your original stage, and you can then feed it into your polymerization, and you can make a product out of it, and it's again injected into the circle. And the last element that we are looking, is there a way where we can use renewable sources for it? So sources that can grow again in the nature, and feed that also into our system. So it's a circular approach, and I think you have to look, because you said sometimes there's a trade-off. It's a sustainable business case you have to make out of it. And wherever you are in the circle, you have to apply different ways of making it a sustainable business case, because only with that it's sustainable at the end.
Thank you, Thomas. Nigel, what about Rio Tinto? And what is even your personal opinion about the question?
Well, recycling is something that's very exciting for us at Rio Tinto. I touched on Newton and the work that we're doing there on circularity and embracing the use of waste to produce and create new copper units. But one of the things that's been exciting for us over the past few months has been our joint venture with Metalco. This is in aluminium. And with aluminium, it's one of those metals that really is infinitely recyclable, and it retains its inherent value after that recycling. So it really is a circular solution to the world. And when you recycle aluminium, the energy consumption is 96% less than the energy consumption of making prime aluminium. And of course, associated with that, you get that significant CO2 reduction. So with Metalco and the joint venture that we created in December last year, what effectively we've done is we've added 900,000 tons of low carbon metal to our inventory. So this now goes into our value-added product, sheet and billet, that we can provide to our customers in North America. So remember, this is combined with primary metal that's made with 100% renewable electricity. So this partnership, this JV with Metalco, has actually increased our capacity in the North American market by 45%. So we've rapidly added extra volume into the North American market with a very, very low carbon footprint. And this is one of the real examples of the way in which, as Ines mentioned, you can embrace recyclability and circularity and ESG for the benefit of not only the company, but also for all of our suppliers and our customers as well, into society.
Okay, thank you very much. So I do believe we close the session here. So I want to thank both of you. Thank you for very interesting discussion.
Thank you, Laura.
Yes. Just let me say one thing more.
Sure.
So this discussion never ends here, because this is a daily activities for all of us, involving both of them, but even all the suppliers, and this is what partnership is. Okay,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
And just to give the first word to them, because I received a question for Rio Tinto, which is, what are the strategies of Rio Tinto to secure raw materials like lithium in a world which is getting more complex and tending to deglobalization? The question that I received, the question for you, it's about the strategy of Rio Tinto to secure raw materials like lithium in a world which is getting to deglobalization and things are getting more complicated, basically.
Well, we tend to go where in our business we have to go where you find the ore. So we're a global company, and we just have to go where the sources of the ore are. So I think that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grazie, Laura.
Thank you.
All right, now we move further and we get closer to the business unit's relation with sustainability and innovation. And let's have a quick video on this. All right, and the first panel will be on transmitting energy in an innovative way. And before I leave with Hakan Osman and his guest, let's ask you another question with the QR code, which is this question. It's how deep can Prysmian submarine installation capabilities go in the Mediterranean Sea? And some of you are starting already to respond. Is it 1,000 meters, 1,500, 2,100, or 2,500 meters? Let's take a few seconds on this. All right, kind of 59% are taking it right, because it's 2,500 meters. Well done, good. And let me also introduce our speakers now. Hakan Osman, who's Prysmian Executive Vice President Transmission, together with Uwe Herzfeld, who's 50 Hertz Head of Purchasing, and Stephanie Kückler, who is Amprion Sustainable Manager, Procurement Manager. Please join me on the stage. All right, welcome everyone. And I would ask Uwe and Stephanie just to, in a nutshell, give the idea for those who are not familiar with Amprion about the company, just in a few words.
Yes, so we are a transmission system operator, meaning we are the ones who connect renewable energy to our electricity grid in Germany.
I see. And Uwe, 50 hertz?
Yeah,
yeah, should work.
Hello? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 hertz transmission operator as well in the eastern part of Germany. And we are part of the Elia group. Elia is a company in Belgium. So they are more located at the low level, mid level, and we are more on the high level. So 380 kV and 525 kV.
Fantastic. Akan, what did you decide to share the experience with these companies and these guests?
First of all, I think both companies are the leaders in the market, and not in the German market only. They are leader in taking the technology and also the innovation into a next level. As you know, the renewable energy has started in Europe, and these are the examples where everything has been cultivated. So the energy transition is led by, I have to say, by the Nordic countries and Germany. And when you look to Amprion or to 50 Hertz, these companies are in the top level for being an example in the energy transition. So we are very happy, and we are working with them with extra large projects, I have to say. We can go to multi-billion projects for multi-year with them together. And I hope this is going to be a long-term, sustainable also business partnership because, you know, looking to the plans of Europe, especially in Germany, I think, and our plans in terms of the leading in the market will happen.
Yes, tell us more about the role that you're playing in the market.
As Prysmian, first of all, we have started this journey many years ago, 40 years ago. I think the first submarine cables that were installed were paper-insulated cables more than 30 years ago, and they are still working. So it is a sustainable product for the long term. And currently, of course, with the energy transition, the market is completely changing. I have to say the energy transition is not only the energy transition itself, it's caused also by energy independence of the countries. So every country wants to be energy independent due to geopolitical reasons, but at the same time, when they invest in the newest technology, in the most viable technology, which is the renewable energy. And we are creating opportunities for the generation companies like TSOs and the transmission companies, again, like TSOs, to connect the generation to the distribution network. And this we do with our high-tech products. I have to say, and proudly, I have to say, more than 90% of our R&D and innovation budget comes for the transmission. And I hope this will grow in terms of maybe not in percentage, because also other, let me say, business units are investing significantly in innovation. Our products are bigger. Our value that we are creating is also bigger, so therefore this is correlated also to that. But we will continue to invest into innovation and lead the market in that.
Yeah, but based on your experience, Akan, how's the market and customer expectation driving the need for more sustainable practices in submarine cable manufacturing today?
Yeah. Let me say this. First of all, the standards are set by us together with the customers, and the customers are really pushing us to go to the next level. And this is exactly what we need, because the standards are not set for companies like Prysmian, because we are having it in our DNA to go the extra mile. By the way, 2,500, we can go up to 3,000. So just to tell that we are pushing our levels to another level, But at the same time, companies like Amprion and 50 Hertz, they set the stage. They requested to go for the industry overall to go to 525 kV. And 525 kV is really an efficient, and not only efficient in terms of energy cost transmission per megawatt, but it's also very efficient because when you install a cable, you use a vessel one time to install the cable, not to go back and forth and so on. And therefore, our customers are setting the higher level, and we are trying to cope with the challenges and come to that innovative product.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, first of all, I would say that's in our both DNA of the TSOs to support the energy transformation in Germany, but in Europe as well, because we are invited in some interconnector projects with other countries in Europe. And our stakeholders expecting that we are invest in sustainability and in innovation as well. When we're talking about sustainability, our main goals are for the moment is to look to decarbonization. We have heard it about before from the other speakers as well. And also the human rights are for us very, very important. Yeah, we are looking very critical to China as other companies as well. And we are highly appreciate that we have a very transparent partnership with Prysmian, also some other strategic suppliers. And we integrate these sustainable criteria also in pre-qualification processes and also in our tender process during the awarding criteria.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I can add on this. I see it's not a one-way street where we as customers push things. We see that really partners like Prysmian, they come up with their own sustainability topics, with their own ideas. They're also pushing boundaries. So it's great to see that we working together on these topics, and it's not only us pushing things. Of course, we use this opportunity, but we also see our partners pushing things, and that's great to see.
Right. We know it's a very competitive market. How being sustainable or your sustainability gives you a competitive edge also versus the peers?
Definitely. The competition is not anymore the cost or the price. The competition is also your solutions, how sustainable your solutions are. Thanks to also our TSOs and our customers in general, they are looking for products and services or systems that are not having a harm into the environment. So we are trying to eliminate the PFS6, or we are the lead-free. We are going for the products that are fully recyclable, like the P-laser. But on the other hand, also, when we install the cables, we look for the biodiversity, for example, which is very important. We don't just lay the cable, destroy the seabed, and then go forward. Because, as you know, 2/3 of the species, in terms of quantity, amount of species, have been reduced in the last 50 years. So that means whenever our TSOs are requiring us to lay a cable, they are asking to see how many species we had before and after, and what did we do. So our offerings are beyond the cable and the system, but we have to also to comply for the long-term sustainable environment in the oceans.
Stephanie, what's the customer point of view on this?
Yes, so we see that as we integrate sustainability in our awarding criteria, of course, it becomes part of the competition among suppliers. And we, as we act in a regulated market, we don't have competitors as such, but we are still competing. So we are competing for finance, for example. The grid projects have a large demand for capital in the next years. So we see that sustainability really becomes also for finance a very, very important factor. We are competing for motivated, talented people that want to work with us, where sustainability is also a factor that attracts people. So I'm really happy to see this development, how sustainability becomes a key success factor in so many areas.
Uwe?
Yeah, as Stephanie explained, we are in a regulated market, so it's not a problem of competitive. It is more that society is looking to us. Yeah? When you're going outside and we have some huge projects where we need some permissions. We have to talk about the authorities. We make some public presentations like today here to explain why there is a need, where we want to go with a cable underground, for example. So onshore is much more critical to get the permission and needs a long time. And everybody has a view on that, and we see our responsibility to explain this and yeah, to drive these forward. Yeah.
So Akan, it's clear that you share the common purpose, which is decarbonization, but how your cooperation, your partnership can create synergies to move forward in that direction?
I think, first of all, independent of the value chain, Prysmian is acting and will continue to act on helping the environment to reduce. We would like to work with our customers and also our suppliers to enable that even further. And I think we are selective, and this is very important. And this, I think it was 3 years ago, we had a suppliers meeting, which we made clear that health and safety, environmental safety, and also sustainability is going to be one of the elements that we are going to choose our suppliers. They have to help us to reduce the emissions. They have to help us to create a more sustainable offering that we are going to have with the customers. And to be frank, we are also selective on the client. We have a possibility, due to the energy transition, to work with the clients that really are in the sustainability area. We are not spoiled to do that. We are doing this because it is a necessity. It is a requirement. And we have to contribute. Now, as individuals, we have many young people that are working in projects in transmission. And all these people are not looking for career only, but also the satisfaction of creating a better world for the long term. So we have to help them, and we have to work with our people together, with our suppliers, and also with our customers to make it more, let me say, viable for the long term.
Yeah, this is a brand new way to look at partnership between customers and providers. And Stephanie, what's your take on this?
Absolutely. So we can only walk this path together. And of course, we see challenges also within our company. We have to gain transparency on our supply chain, which is a huge amount of work. I mean, I think most of companies can relate to that. And we can only gain this transparency and to really see the reduction potentials together with our suppliers and then work on the reduction leverages we have. We are really happy to work together with suppliers that push things just as we want it to be in the sustainability area.
Uwe?
I would say that the long-term partnership is very important. We changed our procurement strategy 3 years ago to go for it. The time before we launched tender for one project, and I think the interest for the supplier will be not so high then to invest in more sustainability or innovation. And then during this long-term partnership, they will get more money from us. That's clear, but we could develop the innovation and the sustainability on a longer time. So it gives us both more room, more space to develop this.
Stephanie, you were stressing transparency, and when it comes to gas emissions and to be accountable and to measure also this, how can one be transparent when it's so still kind of difficult to get to the real, measurement of that?
So what we see is that standardization is not yet at a point where we can really have perfectly comparable data. So for us to really make decisions on GHG data from suppliers, we need to have comparable data. So we work together with suppliers to understand their methodology of accounting and to really be able to have decisions set on GHG emissions data. And for ourselves, so we started to look into all our product groups and to account for the emissions in our upstream supply chain and to really find out which are the main product groups that we have to focus on to have reduction targets achieved.
Akan, this is, a common ground of discussion with your customers, isn't it?
Definitely. And to be frank, the expertise is required in the field. It comes definitely from the customer, it comes also from us, but we have also experts from the universities that are helping us with consulting companies to set some standards, because you cannot reduce anything that you cannot effectively measure. You have to effectively measure what you are seeking to improve. And there are some tender criteria that are already introduced to make evaluations on how we value or evaluate and reduce or target. And it is not just a target. You just put a target, and then it is measured also at the end of the project. And then anything that you do, positive or negative, is affecting your economic result. So it is a serious issue. It is not just as it's in the past that we say we want to have a sustainable environment and so on. No, it's now in every stage of the financial also results that we protect.
Sure, we have to wrap it up a bit. So Uwe, can I ask you, how much do you invest in innovation to achieve sustainability with your partners, on your own, and if you give us any example, and also then for Amprion?
Yeah, we have heard about the SF6 initiatives. We are part of this. That's one example. Another good example is that we are looking together with the cable suppliers about the ships, the generation of the ships, so looking to H2, going out of the fuel. That's another thing. It's not cable related, but interesting for us. We have a lot of overhead lines, and for the moment we are making the maintenance by helicopters, and there's a lot of CO2 from the helicopter, and we are testing how we could do this with drones.
Stephanie?
Yes, so absolutely. And to be honest, our business model itself is sustainable as we connect renewable energy to the grid. So we have billions of investments in achieving sustainable target and decarbonization. Maybe just to add on this, we have also initiatives between TSOs where we share experience on sustainability. Maybe to mention one big initiative that we joined, the Science-Based Targets Initiative, to really have scientifically validated climate targets that we now try to achieve.
Akan?
So just to complete what Uwe was saying, it's not only the product, it's not only the the supply chain, but it's also the methods of installation that you apply. So our new vessels, they will be all powered from the shore. Powered from the shore means you don't use diesel on the vessel while you load the cable, which is a significant operation and power requirement. You get electricity from the grid, and this is now going to be the standard of Prysmian. On the other hand, we are evaluating biofuel. Even as you know, biofuel is extremely expensive, but we are evaluating how to work with our, let me say, fuel suppliers, at the same time also with the vessel construction companies and the engine manufacturers, how we can make it more efficient. And it will come. Sooner or later it will come. I think it is a good start. We see it already in Formula One that they are trying it. I think for us it's too expensive yet, but we are working on it to make it efficient.
Okay, we've got many questions from the room, but we've got just a few seconds left, so we'll have to be really, really brief. For both customers, will the corridors, like in Germany, take over aerial transmission lines, and will this be, as you can see, for what you can say, a kind of a trend, a global trend? And how about the climate change and extreme events affect also transmission? Uwe?
Oh, that's interesting question, because when we're talking these huge corridors, these huge DC lines, the plan is that you will connect and send the energy, the electricity in all directions. For the moment, we are talking about a multi-terminal concept, which is not possible for the moment. A lot of companies are working on that, and we support this. That will be the future. If it is possible from a technical point of view, we will see.
Stephanie?
So, as I understood correctly, it was also about the events. So having a
extreme weather events.
Yeah. So having a secure transmission grid is of course very important, and we also have the challenge of being as fast as possible because we need to build the grid as fast as possible, but at the same time as secure as possible, and at the same time as sustainable as possible. So that is really a big challenge ahead.
This is a very important question that is continuously set in the market. And I just want to give you my personal and professional view on this, which is the same, is no different. I think looking to what is happening in the climate, we are seeing significant climate events, especially when you look to US. Now we are looking on seeing it also in Europe. We are not very much prepared for that. I know that it is also has an economic value for Prysmian, but we have also overhead lines and undergrounds. But I have to tell you that Germany has been an example, having a law to making underground as a must for transmission lines for some period of time. And I think this is the strength of a sustainable long-term environmental, let me say, community and a country. And I think this is an example that should not be interrupted and be an example for all the countries, especially in the US. This is what I can say.
All right, excellent. We have to leave it there, but there will be time for asking direct question and networking over lunchtime. Thanks again, Akan Odsman, Uwe Erzfeld, Stephanie Kückler. And now we're ready to discuss power grid modernization. And again, before that, just a quick question. And the following question of Paul along Prysmian, it's about power grids. Which of the following technologies can help enhancing the grid performance? It is about power flow control, E3X coating for overhead lines, dynamic lines rating, all of the above. I'll leave you a few seconds just to make up your mind on this if you have any preferences, but pretty clearly there's not just a silver bullet here. And yes, it's all of the above, clearly. It's an integrated approach, to enhancing grid performance. And we discussed this in the modernization of grid now with Cinzia Farise, who's Prysmian Executive Vice President Power Grid. Welcome, Cinzia Farise. With Renato Mazzoncini, CEO of A2A here in Milan, and Linton Scotland. Linton Scotland, who's Vice President on Con Edison and Chief Supply Chain and Purchasing Officer. Welcome, he's connected. Welcome to the Innovation and Sustainability Day, Linton.
Yes, good morning. Good afternoon. Actually, still morning. So good
yeah, I know, and we appreciate it. It's very early morning where you are. So, yeah, we truly appreciate your sacrifice to be here at dawn. Okay, but let me start and introduce the discussion with Cinzia Farise to understand why is Prysmian working in this direction and to modernize the grid, and why is it so important to you?
With pleasure. Andrea, please allow me first of all to express my warm welcome to all our stakeholders here, as well as all the other stakeholders who are following online. I realize that they are very numerous. So thank you for joining. I thank Renato Mazzoncini, the CEO of A2A, for his contribution to this panel, and certainly to our Linton Scotland, who is following. I asked him to make an effort to wake up a little bit early. I think this is also part of the strong partnership we were building with him. It is indeed a peculiar moment, this one for the grids. We may say that we are certainly at a turning point in terms of energy business, and the grid are particularly involved in this moment. We are seeing very interesting trends, an increase in demand of electricity, considering the same perimeter as of today, for different usage, as we already explored in the previous roundtable. We assist on an increase in terms of connection, extending the necessity of new grid. We are assisting to a massive renewable energy sources in terms of generation, which is, by the way, introducing a lateral and bi-directional energy flows that obviously is requiring a big effort, a big responsibility from the grids, and is transforming consumers in prosumers. We assist on the necessity of revamping and refurbishment of the aging grids, obviously while redesigning them in order to englobe what is the new generation model, distributed generation model, and we see also, last but not least, a big necessity in terms of safety, in terms of reliability, in terms of resilience in front of a risk of blackout, which is increasing due to extreme event or due to potential cyber attack. So this is a very peculiar moment. In this moment that we call energy transition, it is very true that the power generation in terms of renewable sources is determinant and important, but if we really want to achieve important goals in terms of decarbonization for the next year, investing in the grid is becoming extremely important. This is introducing a huge responsibility, new responsibility for TSO and DSOs. And we, as Prysmian, we have the capacity, a wide range of product and solution offering to the utilities to support this trend. But of all, we have a huge capability in terms of innovation that is supporting. So we have a huge role in this transformation journey.
So Renato Mazzoncini, Cinzia Farise already introduced the radical changes in the world of grid, and I know that you compare what's happening now with what was happening when the grid was born, you know, after war in the 50s and 60s. And why do you think this is such an interesting time for the future of the grid?
No, good morning, everyone. No, surely, as Cinzia says, a very, very peculiar moment because from one side, we need to face an incredible increasing in the demand. Frankly speaking, today, the demand is more or less the same of 2 or 3 years ago. No? In Italy, the total demand is 310 terawatt hours. It's not changed a lot in the last year, but the forecast is 20% more in 2030, 60% more in 2050, so we have to do. And it's interesting the fact that the grid, our distribution grid, was born 100 years ago, more or less, and we developed the grid also like dimension, kilometers, between 1920 and 1980. Then after 80, 80%, 90% of the capex in gas network in Italy, in Germany, in other countries. So we have a grid in distribution, in particular in the DSO, but also with our TSO, that is old, more or less 60% of the grid more than 40 years. But is a good moment, let's say, because we have to increase the peak power a lot, 60%, and so is the perfect moment to redo the grid with an increasing very important of the total capacity of distribution. One example, in Milan, we are, you know, the distributor in the DSO in Milan, the total, the peak power theoretical is 1.7 gigawatt today. We have to arrive in 2040 to 2.7, and to do we have to triple the historical capex for pod in the grid. That means really to build a new primary substation and to do repowering the secondary substation and to change kilometers, thousands of kilometers of grid. So it's a very exciting moment, and we have to face really a revolution, because it's clear that the final goal is decarbonization. And to arrive to decarbonize really this world, we need to invest a lot in electrification, and grid is key.
And this is an Italian-European perspective. Let's move back to New York with Linda Scotland, and to understand the ConEd reality, which is basically managing, I think it's possibly the largest grid in the world. And so give us the sense of what you're doing over there, and how the new needs of innovating and modernizing the grids are driving also your strategy.
Great. So thank you so much for the question. And I'll give a little bit background about who ConEd is. So when we think of Con Edison, we provide electricity, gas, and steam to over 10 million residents and business city area. And we know that New York City is one of the most diverse areas in the United States. So our core mission is really providing that electricity and gas and steam. We have over 5 million customers, and doing that in a safe, reliable, and efficient way. And in keeping with our clean energy vision and future for our company. One of the things that's important to know is that New York City, Con Edison, we're the largest energy provider in the state of New York. And over 85% of our energy delivery system is underground, which is one of the most complex and largest systems in the world. Reliability is also very important to us. So we think of our reliability as one that exceeds the both national and North America, national and New York standards. And for us as a company, Con Edison, we are over 200 years. So last year we celebrated our 200th years as a company. The innovation, sustainability is really, really critical for us. And when we think of the work that we have to do, we can't do it without our energy partners. So to make the grid more resilient, more reliable, and safe, it really takes the partnership between working with our key suppliers, but also what we call more strategic partners. And that's what we've been focusing on.
All right, thank you for this introduction, Linton. And Cinzia Farise, how are you working with Con Edison in New York, but also with A2A here, to approach and to respond to these needs?
So, as we say, the need is there, and then there is an increased needs in operating the grids. As Prysmian Group, obviously, we are very much focusing this segment from our latest time. We were born with utilities. It is clear that now it is required a big more effort. If we think at what the international agency is saying, we do expect to double in terms of number of kilometers of grid in the next years. They say within 2040, we will be obliged, if we want to achieve the climate change ambition target, at least 80 million kilometers of grid in terms of refurbishment or new lines. Is impressive. So it is something that we never explored. In front of this necessity, it is clear that being the first suppliers of both of them is no more enough. We can be the first supplier, but if we do not enter into this new energy transition mood, we are not able to offer more to our customers. So basically what we are doing in this moment is trying to implement our approach to innovation. We will do as it is in our DNA, innovating together with our partners, and we are in effect moving forward, including a new product, new services, new solution with the customers that are answering to this necessity in terms of resilience, in terms of safety, in terms of empowering. And this we are doing obviously with them, because innovation is by definition a collaboration. We are doing together, and we are going much beyond. For example, with A2A, we are the first supplier in terms of medium voltage cable, but this is no more enough. We are exploring opportunity in terms of monitoring. We have some tests going on monitoring, on partial discharge, in order to detect, to monitor, to prevent that the situation is complicating and is bringing to blackouts. Together with Connect, we introduce, for example, a very interesting network component, which is, as we know, the network component, one of the critical point of the grid. This is our ELA-SPID-S, that is also an intelligent network component, which is able also to monitor if there are partial discharge on the grid. Particularly with Connect and with Exelon, assisted by ARPA, which is the US Energy Agency, we are developing a breakthrough innovation, which is a splicing machine supporting through a complete automatized system to splice the joint into the medium voltage network. And I see the face of Renato, because I think that this is one of the nevralgic point of the network, reducing certainly the time, which is also a sustainability driver for us and for our customer, reducing the cost, reducing the rate in terms of...
Renato Mazzoncini, what do you expect from this partnership, especially in terms of this innovation underway?
Oh, it's clear that one of the topic to face in the next years is the resilience of the network. And if I think to Milano, for example, in which the density of energy is 5 times more than in Rome, to understand the problem, because it's like New York, a very vertical town, so the density is key. The two nightmares are the secondary substation underground, so storm, rain, flooding, Lambro River, so the risk of a blackout, and the joints. Having a very low number of primary substations in Milan, we have 40,000 joints. That is a complete disaster. Also because typically if we have a problem on a joint, the problem is that the joint is on the road, underground a couple of meters. Typically there is a car parked on the top.
Anytime there's an emergency.
People call, there is a blackout. So the first problem is to call the police to remove the car and then to open the canteen. And big problem. So, for example, any innovation in predictive maintenance for joints is completely key. Absolutely. And exactly is what we are doing with Prysmian. Some experiments to understand how it's possible to have information, data, communication, radio and so on from the joints. I think that today, surely, we have not in our bag all the equipment that we need to arrive at 2050 decarbonized. If you think to storage for renewable and so on. So I think that we have a lot to invest in research, innovation in the next 30 years to try to arrive 2050 decarbonized.
All right, let me hear from Linton Scotland. And how are you working on innovation, and what do you expect from the partnership with Prysmian?
No, thank you so much for this question. I think the area of innovation is something that is so critical for us. And since you mentioned a couple of those areas, but I want to just highlight it a little bit more. When we think of the underground splicing machine that we've been in development with Prysmian, that is so important from a safety perspective, right? So if we can improve that worker safety, that when if this is done automatically, it is critical. And the other part of it is the underground monitoring system for potential failures. So with the pre-cam system, if we can have that, we can detect, monitor, and prevent. That is also very important. And one other area that I would mention is P laser cable. From a sustainability standpoint, that is also really important. As it's an eco cable, it's recyclable, and it's focused really in sustainability and reduction in production time, but not only in production time, but in reduction in CO2, I think almost by 40%. So those areas are really critical for us as we think of the grid of the future, of modernizing that grid. It's really important, again, going back to what we stressed on it being safe, it being reliable, and it being sustainable. So those areas, working with our partners like Prysmian, is really, really critical for us at Con Edison.
Absolutely. One of the differences is that, to me, in the US, there's a large public investment. The US administration is pushing, for renewing the grid. And also Massimo Battaini, opening the session this morning, mentioned this US approach versus European approach. How are you working on this project?
Yes, so I think when we think of government and private funding to accelerate the transition to clean energy, just recently, I think it was a couple of years back, we had what they call the Inflation Reduction Act, which allocated almost $370 billion for this push for decarbonization. Also, private sector investment, $270 billion. So really, the U.S. is moving in that space in terms of, as we see the retirement of fossil generation and the need to add capacity to accommodate the renewable energy generation and support the grid reliability. So from an investment perspective, we are making investment, but also governments and making investment in this area to move and put, that's all in the push for decarbonization.
Cinzia Farise, what's your take also on this, looking at the future?
What I can say more, when I have a customer and partners that are promoting our product, it's difficult to do more. I was really impressed. They are the most relevant ambassador to us, and this is in effect something that is not happening in one day. Is the result of a great relationship with them. What I want to make clear is that we are fully determined in supporting our partners in decarbonizing. And we are doing the same in our operation, in our business model, in our relationship in promoting and encouraging our supplier to do the same. With our P-Laser that Linton was mentioning, we are offering a fully recyclable product. With our E3X, we are giving more power to the overhead line, especially in US, reducing losses and preventing also atmosphere conditions. We have many new initiatives. We have a great opportunity to visit, for whom is here also the best of the breakthrough innovation that we are developing for the grid. Very clear. We don't know if what it is announced in terms of capex, it will be realized. We are speaking on a capital expenditure for TSO and DSO, which is at least in average more than 5% in US, in North America, 6% in Latin America, in 3.6% in Europe, even 9.8% in Asia. So this is introducing obviously a great effort from all the system. We are ready to do our part. We are moving in this direction. We are at the shoulder of our partners, and I think that together we have really the opportunity to write one of the best pages in the history of the energy transition together.
Renato Mazzoncini, I was mentioning your industrial plan. What's the room for investing also in this direction looking ahead for you?
For innovation, you say?
Yes.
I think that one of the problems that we have in Italy in particular is that the life for startups is a disaster because there are not, let's say, financial players really committed in pushing startups. Then a couple of solutions, or all the startups goes in US or in some other part of the world, or we try also with corporate to help us. And so this is the reason for why we decided some years ago to launch the first fund for innovation and startups. In the first experiment, we was the only LPs. Now we launched some weeks ago a second fund, 200 million euros, in which we are the main LPs, but not the unique, and is the biggest fund for ecological transition in Italy and good size also in Europe. And I think that we have absolutely to try to also to finance this ecosystem because it's key. For example, the substation submarine that we developed at the end also with a big player like Schneider and others starts from innovation from startups. And I think that is very important. Also the fact that companies like A2A, that is a big park for startups, is really open. So for example, we changed completely the process to enable startups to sign an agreement to work with us in 7 days, starting, let's say, from infinite time, because if you ask to startups, free balance, declaration, DURC, and so on, is
that's not a startup.
Exactly.
That's a mature company.
Now, if a startups, you know, our spread is from waste cycle, water cycle, grid generation, and so smart city. You can imagine public illumination, CPO for electrical vehicles. So there is a spread of activities in which the number of startup and innovation is really incredible. And now we have an ecosystem worldwide because we work with the network that is...
This has an economic impact and innovation impact.
Yeah, sure.
But leaving aside environment, you work also on the social impact and of your activities. Just in a few words, what are you doing?
In few words, I say that worldwide, I think that the first problem is climate change and circular economy, so Earth Overshot Day. But looking Italy, the first problem is surely demography. For not Italian people, the situation is that today we are 58 million people, and in 2060 we'll arrive to be 47. That means that our contribution to climate change is through extinction. No. And if we
That's
want,
encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to try to change this path, the only solution, waiting that the government do more, is also to do our part like big corporate. So I asked to my guys in HR, guys, but our employees, which is the index of natality in our company, because overall in Italy is 1.2 children for women, and in A2A is 1.4. So better, but it's 2.1 the target. So I asked to check in all the big corporate which are the instruments to do really welfare for genitoriality and natality. And we tried to do the sum of all the other experience. The cost was 10 million every year. And we decided to put on the table 120 million. So for the next 12 years, 10 million every year. That means that, for example, for every children that in this moment there is in the company, from 0 to 18 years, there is the possibility to give till 3,500 euros net the guys. So it's a way to try to bring also the company in this direction, because we have absolutely to invert.
Right, but let me also ask Linton Scotland, how are you working on this kind of social aspects in one of the most diverse and even complicated areas of the planet, like the New York area?
Yes, no, thank you so much for the question. When it's, again, as I mentioned, with New York City being one of the most diverse areas, so if you think 10 million residents, about 60% of that is diverse communities. And one of the things that recent regulations that was passed in New York City, which was the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which is in line with the clean energy objectives of the state, and focusing on electrification and the transportation in the building sectors, but not only that, in terms of diverse communities. So what are we doing in that space? So for us at Con Edison, as we mentioned, the growth that we see happening, we're building new substations, and those substations are in very diverse areas. So we think of the Brooklyn Clean Energy Hub, and then the Idlewild project in Queens, New York. These are major projects that we have, and in diverse communities. One of the important things for diverse communities is really, from an environmental justice perspective, health and wealth. So health in terms of what are you bringing into my neighborhood, and wealth, what jobs, opportunities they created for the people in that community. And so we approaching it from both perspectives, from understanding the hazards of the products that we have, but also the wealth aspect. So last year we employed brought in over 1,600 new employees. Most of that were from diverse communities. And the other part of it, which is our supplier diversity, so opportunities for people to and companies to participate in this growth that we see. So for us at Con Edison, that is one of the really important things when we think of sustainability from an ESG perspective, environmental, also social, and governance.
Yeah, Linda Scotland, just a few questions, final question from the audience. The first one is for you, and they're asking, based on your experience, what value does decarbonization has in the US market, and do you expect there will be any changes after the November election in terms of, the framework, investment frameworks that we mentioned?
Yeah, so when we think of New York, and I say that even within the area that we are, it's quite, we don't see any major changes, because what we call the state of New York is quite a blue state. And so from an overall perspective for us in Con Edison, the direction that we're going, we see that continuing. Overall, if you think of California and New York being East Coast and West Coast, they really set the trend for what is happening across the country. We recognize that this is an election year and things could change, but I think the path that we're on, we see that continuing in spite of the changes that might happen from a political standpoint.
All right, thank you, Linton Scotland. And one question for Renato Mazzoncini. With the increasing demand for power on electric cars, are we in danger to use fossil fuels to supply the electricity that we need for electric cars? And how do you see the development of this?
No, in all our studies to arrive in 2030 with 50% of electrical cars sold on the market, that means theoretically 6 million of cars in Italy, the total increasing of terawatt hour is 10%. So let's say a peanuts. The growth of renewable energy is much higher in all the forecasts. So I don't think that there is this kind of risk. I think that the problem is much more battery. And so, for example, the technology vehicle to grid is critical in the future. We are working like DSO a lot in the logic of prosumer, so to have flexibility, because to reduce the total number of storage that we need to work with generation intermittent like renewable, we need to use all the flexibility, and surely also cars that stay 92% of the time parked is a topic to face. We need an agreement with car makers because, in this moment it's not possible to do vehicle to grid, mainly for the guarantee that car makers to batteries. And so if you use battery, not only to move the car, but also to do storage or flexibility for the network, this is a topic.
And Cinzia Farise, lastly, this is clearly connected also with the future of the grid. What's your final takeaway for the audience of the discussion?
Let me say we are fully aligned with our partners. We are in between leaders. I think that we have a great opportunity, great challenge to face. We will do together, as we always did, as it is in our DNA while innovating. But innovation is very much embedded on sustainability. It is clear that also in this case we are on the same page. We are fully committed every day in making good results, but it's not more enough. We have to respect the planet. We have to give back to our community. And I think that leadership is also a lot about elevating the ecosystem, about empowering and creating new opportunity for all.
All right, excellent. So thanks again to our panelists, Linton Scotland. And again, Linton, thanks for waking up before 6 a.m. It will be a long day. First presidential debate tonight, so I understand it will be a long day. All right, thanks Renato Mazzoncini, Cinzia Farise. Thank you, everyone. Now we move forward with the last panel of the first part of the day, and we'll discuss sustainable supply chain to drive outstanding performance with Cristiana Scelza, who's Prysmian's Executive Vice President, Electrification, with Giacomo Sofia, who's Prysmian Chief Operating Officer, Tanguy Griffon, who is Sonepar Group Vice President, Sustainability and Energy Transition, and Alberto Chiulli, who's Junior Partner at McKinsey here. Please take your place on the stage. Welcome, everyone. Now, another question, and it's the final one of the morning, with the smartphone application, and the question is, Prysmian Omero allows homeowners to monitor what? Electrical consumption, safety of appliances, ground connection, or all of the above? And apparently, pretty simple question for you guys. You're very prepared. Cristiana Scelza, do you agree with the room? All of the above?
I have to, no?
Yes, you have to. I think that was the right answer. So, Cristiana Scelza, let me start with you, because, reducing companies' carbon footprint is not enough, and we already heard from different panels today, enabling supply chain emission reduction is not just a must-do, but it's a very complicated target. How do you approach this, Cristiana?
Thanks, Andrea. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. I have the remote control, but the slide is already here. I was trying to manage a little bit of suspense, but you have already the slide. I would start just for a few words. When we think about sustainability, we have different words coming to our mind. Innovation, opportunity, design with purpose, risk management, because it's also risk management, and operational transformation, because the day that you realize that environmental, social, and economic factors are all connected together, then you are forced to review everything that is working inside, all your processes, the logistic workflows, and all the resource management system. Inevitably, you find inefficiency, waste, and possibility of fulfillment and refinement. Why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because the main words that come into my mind when I think about sustainability is cooperation and co-creation, internally and externally. And this is not the case of the panel that you have in front today. You have business and operation, Giacomo. Because we are together in front of customer, Tanguy, and partner, Alberto. It is fundamental. It's fundamental for the hardware, let's say, so for the revision of the way we are working, and the software, so the people. Because only being together, we can achieve our goal. And then the slide. The slide is to show that in reality, there is not anymore the diktat take, make, and deliver, but it's more a circular mode. No? I was talking about designing with purpose. We are not thinking anymore to, I do a new product, I deliver a new product. No, I look to the full life cycle of the product, of the material. So there is a continuous and circular approach. I work with customer, and the words with customer is transparency. So we exchange data. We have together ambitious target for the net zero emissions. Suppliers, transparency again, but there I'm much more pushy than with customer, because to supplier we are asking to reach and to give new material, new element for us to be then part of an ecosystem for delivering innovation. Here in the slide, you see some of the names that you have heard already. ePath is our solution, our green offer that is so important for our customer. But you can see much more going and visiting our booth. So I do a little bit of marketing also for our booth, where you will see much more, many more innovation for solar, for mining, for EV charging points. Because again, and I add only this point, it's a stereotype, a bias. Industrial and construction business, that is the major chunk of our business, it is a place for innovation. We are doing innovation. The strength of Prysmian is doing innovation even when it's so difficult. ePath, the green offer of Prysmian, represent 60%, 60% on total sales in some of our country, and we are very proud of that. All of this to say, and pass to Giacomo, that the partnership to do this, to be so innovative, you need internal synergies, and we need the operation part.
Well, definitely, because Giacomo, Sofia, you're a manufacturer, and the sustainability path start inside, you know, where you work on your cable and cables.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we said before, and you also answered very correctly, that if you see things holistically, scope 3 matters more than scope 1 and 2. However, when we embarked in this journey and we started, we also realized that first of all, we had the total ownership of what we could do on scope 1 and 2, and so we did start with that. And at the same time, also the total responsibility of leading by example in that sense. So kicking off our roadmap on scope 1 and 2 has started with setting the baseline first. And as you can see in this graph, that baseline is set in 2019, was counting for about 920,000 tons of equivalent CO2 consumption. So about 1 million, right? A certain number of action, and I will spend a couple of words in a minute on that, has brought us already at the end of 2023 to fundamentally decarbonize our footprint by about 33%. So at the end of 2023, our overall consumption of CO2 equivalent is in the range of 616,000 equivalent tons. And that's about the whole footprint of ours. So more than 100 factories around the world and a certain number of distribution centers as well. And going from there, if you can stay please on that slide, we are perfectly on track on our roadmap to get then by the end of 2030 to about a 50 to 60% reduction of this footprint. So
455.
Yeah,
so you
say
are there.
55. Yeah, about 400. We'll be there by 2030. We have all the actions in place to get there. And this is also the trajectory that will bring us by 2035 to a net zero. Net zero meaning in the taxonomy and nomenclature, having a 10% residual consumption fundamentally. And what we've done, we've started with a certain number of initiatives and allocating an important capex to do so, about 100 million over the course of 10 years. We have already equipped all our factories around the world with LED lighting. which has been a good contributor of reducing electrical energy consumption. We mentioned before we have fundamentally eradicated this gas SF6 from the perimeter of our operations. We've been working on our machinery in order to really optimize all the motors that are powering our lines and making them fit for purpose. We had a lot of over-designed motors in our factories. We have optimized our compressed air circuits, also a great source of losses. And very interesting, I would say, we have started a program to install solar farms within our premises. We have already more than 10 in operations, and we have another 10 that are in the process of being built or negotiated with our suppliers. Those solar farms are providing up to 15 to 20% of the energy that is necessary to affect a given factory to run on every year. And so that's a real proof of direct sourcing of renewable energy within the factories. Going forward, and to continue building on our program, we will sign agreements with our partners and suppliers to have PPAs, so long-term agreements to get a direct supply from wind farms and solar farms off-site. And we are also looking at fundamentally eradicating gas from our operations in order to have fully electrified factories. This has happened yesterday as well, guys, during our suppliers conference. So I hope it's a false alarm again.
The door was open, but
I think so. So I guess no real harm.
Shouldn't be a problem. It is not the lunch bell. Okay.
So yeah, maybe I carry on. I just tell you, yesterday we had a beautiful suppliers conference. This has happened again. Yesterday night I was discussing with some of our suppliers, and two of them in two different hotels had exactly the same issue. So something strange is happening here, guys. But yeah, nothing happened. So and just to finish up on this topic, we are also building up our internal system to monitor and electrical energy consumption in each of our lines in the factory in order to kick off further improvement programs.
All right, Cristiana, we heard you're doing a lot inside factories, but when it comes to interacting with customers, you know, on the sustainability path, how can you bring the discussion, the partnership at another level?
I will leave to Tanguy to better go on this topic and to reply to Andrea. I would just say a few words. 1996, Walmart ran a very interesting pilot with the supplier. Using their internet communication, they were reducing the inventory cost. So sharing data with their supplier and using their technology or the technology already available at the time, they were able to reduce dramatically the inventory cost. So the answer to the question is really leveraging on the technology that we have, so digitalization for sure, and again, the transparency and the cooperation with the customer, we can really make a change, a big change on the value chain. And then I will leave to Tanguy to further.
Yes, Tanguy, give us the Sonepar view.
Yes, just before the alarm bell for the lunch.
Okay.
So that
way better now.
Yeah, much nicer. Just one thing. I don't know how many of you have seen the recent Time actually study. It was just published, I think, yesterday, and Prysmian has been elected in the top 50 of the most sustainable companies in the world. So really congratulations, because it's a big commitment from all of you. It's an achievement, yeah. On our side, as Sonepar, so what we look at first, maybe about the context, we look at the environmental pressure, so climate, the waste, biodiversity, and water. So Sonepar, we have about, let's say, 7% market share of the electrical industry, 30 billion euro company. So today, what we see is 70% of emissions are coming from industry, processes, 30% industry and 40% the building through energy usage. So as we serve the largest community of industrial customers and electricians on the planet, our goal also is to help them navigate the net zero, and of course, same as you, get to a net zero supply chain. So when we started the journey, we were like, okay, how do we start? So the first part is to lead by example, and that's a transformation that many of you are doing, obviously. So decarbonizing the buildings and the transport, so renewable energy, certificates, low carbon transport, biofuels, and so on. But that's also where there is another part where the integration with partners such as Prysmian is essential. What you see here is the automation that we are doing in our supply chain. So we serve lighting, cable and wires, power distribution. In regards to cable, you see this e-commerce platform that we are actually scaling up in all our countries in Sonepar. We serve 40 countries. And this is a novelty because it allows our customers to actually specify the length of cuts of cables directly online. And then it's directly integrated into our automated warehouses. So it's 2.5 billion of investment. We want to reach about 90% of automation so that we can reduce energy consumption and waste, because with this, you reduce the scraps of cables, basically. And then it's integrated into those warehouses where you have cable cutting machines that actually do it directly. Where the integration with companies and partners like Prysmian is essential, it's about on-time delivery. Because there we can plan and replenish our inventories, we can bundle our orders, we can reduce the number of deliveries and basically lower the carbon footprint. And especially when we have low carbon transportation, and this is an example with the Netherlands, the truck that you can see, it's one of the first in kind that we work with suppliers. So this is where we can reduce our transport. Also, you were talking about data, Christina, it's about transparency, the kilometers, the weight, the distances, so that we can optimize this footprint. That's on the one part in this transformation. Another part, packaging. Can we reduce plastic? Can we also use recycled plastic? What about biodiversity, sustainable forestry in the cable reels? We do that with pallets as well. I think this is an avenue of development for the future. So that was the transformation part. We are at the beginning of it, with very good collaboration. Then now, it was said early morning, I think sustainability is also about making money because this has to scale up. And of course, it's reducing impact, but when you make money, you accelerate. So for us, it's a competitive advantage for our suppliers, for us, and for the customer. When we started the journey, we looked at CO2 first, and we measured our scope 1, 2, and 3, as Prysmian did. What we saw, that was 5 years ago, is that there was very, very much of a lack of environmental data on the market, very sparse information. And we were like, okay, electrification, renewables, energy efficiency, they are the best levers to decarbonize the planet. That's according to the International Energy Agency. So how can you decarbonize the planet if you don't have data? So then what we decided to do, if you want to move to the next slide, is to actually work with our partners to actually provide transparency on the market. So to define our own methodology to measure across all the products the carbon footprint. Because there are EPDs, environmental product declarations, yes, but they are not comparable. And if you want to reduce emissions, you have to compare. So what we did is by product category, cable, lighting, power distribution with the Schneiders, the Prysmian, the Signify and the like, is to measure the CO2 of a product from the manufacturing, the usage, transport, and end of life. And therefore you can compare, therefore you can provide it online. And this is what you can see on the screen. It's called the green offer. So it's an environmental labeling, A, B, or C, which stands for best, better, and good, and which enables our customers, so the electricians, to actually choose the most sustainable alternative, and also for the end user as well to reduce their carbon footprint, because the electrician is in the B2C in the end. So we started with CO2, which is much more mature than circularity. We heard about it this morning. Circularity is the next step. So we are working with the team of Prysmian and also other strategic players in the cables and wires. How can we compare the recyclability of a cable and wire? What is recycled content? This is extremely important so that we can compare those products together and of course reduce waste. So that's the next avenue of development together, and we do those industry workshops while respecting compliance, of course. So that was more on the product part. The next part is really, and we've seen it this morning, how do we get from linear to circular? How do we collect the scraps of cable from the work site, from the electrician, and we start doing it by incentivizing those electricians with loyalty programs, coupons, new business model basically, to get a steady flow of waste, of basically used cables and wires, then providing it to partners, recyclers, and then selling it back on the market. So that's really the next wave of development that we can have together. Maybe one last part on the environmental pressure, which is really interesting. I get a lot of interest from capital owners, funds, banks. They come to me and they said, okay, how can we finance gray to green activities? Because they see that companies in the electrical industry will, of course, I mean, that's the future. So they will be profitable. So they want to take part into it. When we did the biodiversity assessment in Sonepar, we saw that the environmental pressures across all the product lines, climate change, global warming, of course, but also in the extraction. We talked about it with Rio Tinto this morning on the copper, but we also have the lithium, we have also platinum and so on. So there, can we work, can we do think tank with capital owners to actually finance probably some projects in terms of biodiversity rehabilitation? That's again an avenue of development because we'll get to a more regenerative economy in the future, and we need to start to anticipate this. The last part, where the net zero and the supply chain collaboration is essential, we have a tsunami coming to us with the CSRD. It's more than 1,000 KPIs. I think you're aware of it. So how do we tackle it? We'll get more stringent KPIs with our supply chain on ESG criteria, also code of conduct, duty of vigilance. So there, the collaboration, and you mentioned it, it's transparency. So that's my last comment on this.
Thank you, Tanguy. Giacomo, Sofia, would you add something on this?
Yeah, as we were saying before, collaboration and scope 3 matters a lot. And I wanted to illustrate here, I think, a very interesting project that we are carrying forward thank you very much, in the Netherlands, also in collaboration with Sonepar. So with a study we did with the University of Delft, we have selected the electrical vehicles distribution as the most logical and sustainable and reliable solution going into the future in a mature country as the Netherlands. In that sense, we started already in 2022 with a pilot project, and we delivered, I guess, just a kind of 50 tons on an electrical vehicle truck for the first time. Last year in 23, we did already about 750 tons delivered to our customers, power distribution and utility stayed in, but also a very interesting project in the airport of Schiphol, where with our partner BAM installer, basically we have delivered fully sustainable products, our medium voltage P-laser recyclable product, with fully with the EV vehicles and equipped also with our tracking system of Alesea on the drums. That was also an element for us, basically, to win that tender, by the way. So just to make it clear, for once, that solution has provided us the opportunity to win, adding on top of usual price and delivery terms, something more that has been valued by the customer as a differentiating element to be awarded with that program. This year, in 2024, in these first 6 months, we have already delivered 2,000 tons of cables. By the way, half of that is with Sonepar. And we have a very interesting, you were mentioning it before, with that truck. So I think we have a kind of a shuttle that operates on a daily basis to connect our factory of Emmen in the Netherlands with the distribution center of Sonepar, Halfen den by Rhine, I think, or if the name is correct. It's about 200 kilometers that every day is a shuttle between. And once we'll add a second truck on that, so electrical vehicle, of course, on that way, we will have the full coverage and the full connection between the two parties for the full volume on a yearly basis, fully electrified. This year we'll get to 6,000 tons, which is about 10% of our distribution in the Netherlands. We are on track with this solution to get into 2030 with more than 50% of our volume that is delivered in the Netherlands, fully electrified. And by the way, in May this year, we also delivered for the first time an high voltage drum, which is much bigger and heavy. So with an heavy duty, for the first time, heavy duty electrical vehicle has been able to distribute this drum on site. The target is to get in 2050 to a point where 60,000 tons of production, that is the full production that we do in the Netherlands, for the local domestic distribution, will be distributed on EV truck.
Yeah, and I think this is a terrific example of a sustainable supply chain in the making. And Alberto Chiulli, but let's also look at the future and so the trends in the technology to get to more sustainable value chains.
Thanks a lot, Andrea. As very well stated in the previous intervention, so sustainability for industrial company, for manufacturers, is not only a fancy trend, is not only a buzzword, but is something very tangible and is a key success factor for the challenges of the next decades. Indeed, all the different stakeholders within an industrial company, but also outside, are having a growing attention to sustainable aspects of the business. Investors, first of all, with a growing attention on sustainable funds, more and more. And you can see the figures of the McKinsey Global Institute survey. Employees within a company, so it's also a key success factor of retention of employees, more and more. Customers, of course, because they are willing to acquire sustainable products, and also the regulators, last but not least, because as you can see, not only within the European Union, but sustainable laws and norms are increasing, let me say, the effort of the regulators. If we look at the trends, and where, in the next slide, thank you, the industrial companies and manufacturers are focusing attention. So supply chain is absolutely a cornerstone of the transition to net zero of industrial companies in particular. And it will be a cornerstone of the efforts of the next years. So the supply chain will be stressed, and there will be at the intersection of the focus of the business and the operations of the company. There will be some traditional aspects, of course, because supply chain need to ensure quality, service, cost efficiency, but also there are new aspects, new areas of focus, such as the resilience, of course, of the supply chain, but also the sustainability. And the sustainability from a sustainable point of view, so we observed a bunch of initiatives that companies are defining and implementing to become more sustainable. Is planning and logistics, of course, inventory optimization, sustainable logistics choices, of course, and also recycled materials. Sustainable procurement, which means not only new materials, but also new energy supplies, as Giacomo was stating regarding the PPA, which is, for instance, a key element that can help companies, and also, as a whole, the life cycle management, in order to, let me say, design from an engineering point of view, and then build more sustainable components and products. The combination of these initiatives will help the company in the transition towards a more sustainable supply chain. It will be free? No, it will be complicated for some companies even more, but these are, in our opinion, the challenges of the next decades.
All right, so thank you for that. And we've just left kind of 3 minutes. So any takeaway, Cristiana Scelza, from the discussion you've heard?
Andrea, I was just thinking that the success of the system is the success of everybody. I mean, if we reach our target all together, every one of us will reach our result, our success. And this is coming not only from KPI result, satisfaction of a customer, but is also the satisfaction of our employee. They see a company that is so well placed in such a list of sustainable company.
So, do you agree?
Definitely. Just one comment I wanted to add also. I mean, all the work that we are doing, we also see the result, the sales online, by the way, of our customers that are actually buying more green products than the non-green. So that means now it's paying off and the mentalities are changing, by the way. Yeah, but of course, talents and so on. Yeah.
If customer drives the change, that makes a difference.
There is one point that Tanguy was mentioning. It is one of the biggest issue now is resource, is people, skilled people. Cooperation with customer can open also a conversation about rotation of resources and the possibility to optimize our strengths together. So the transparency that we were talking before and the exchange that we were talking before is also something that can boost and anticipate, prevent, and help us in solving all the issues that we have in front. I need to say thank you to Alberto and to Tanguy and to their company, because Giacomo and myself really feel strong when we have on our back, on our side in reality, people and company like this. So this is extremely important for us.
Giacomo.
Yeah, I think this closing point of Christiana is very powerful, so I don't want to add a lot. For sure, as we said, I think these 2 days demonstrate how collaboration is important. I said yesterday was a beautiful Suppliers Day. Today it's really open to all our stakeholders. And we mentioned it before, really honest and intellectually honest transparency will pay back big time. And I guess we are really on taking the right direction. And the fact that it's really visible that everybody believes in what he or she is saying today, for me is the most reassuring thing. Thank you.
I agree.
All right,
Very
thank
nice.
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Also for very engaging discussion on supply chain. We do not just talk innovation. We innovated also a bit the format of these days. So I'm asking the head of innovation at Prysmian, Srini Siripurapu, welcome Srini, to anticipate what's going to happen right after lunch during the break.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea. Hello, everybody. Wonderful. It's nice to see the auditorium packed. I really am prompted to take a selfie, but it's lunchtime. So maybe we do it at the end. So anyways, for those of you who've been already a part of our sustainability events in the past, you probably noticed something different this year. It's Sustainability and Innovation Day. So hopefully this is the start of every year, Christina, that we do the same thing. So the history behind this, about 3 months ago, I get a call from Christina saying, hey, I have an idea. Every time Christina calls me with that, I'm always like, I'm not sure what to expect. and then Christina was like, hey, you know what? Some of our stakeholders are saying, it'll be nice if we talk a bit more about innovation. I said, aye, count me in. But what is more important is I have to thank our business unit leaders, Hakan, Cinzia, Christiana, and Frederick. Because the power of Prysmian is in the last 90 days, we all got together to put together a showcase for you, which is the first innovation showcase the company is attempting. So please don't be too hard on us. We are willing to listen today from what you see and tell us what you would like to see more. Okay, like Massimo said at the beginning, we like to listen. And it's not a sales pitch today. It's more us trying to show you our impression of the world, and you will see more than cables. You will see solutions. That's what we want to do. You will see robotics. You will see software. You will see AI. You're going to see a lot of things that we today not necessarily make money on, but hope to make money on in the future. Okay. So with that, I open up the innovation showcase. One logistic thing, please, before we all go out and enjoy lunch in each other's company. For our stakeholders, please look at your badges. If you see the alphabets A, B, C, and D, please gather for the tour at 1:30, right after lunch, okay? And if you have on your badge E, F, G, and H, you will be on the tour at 3:40 at the end of the session, okay? Enjoy lunch, and thank you again.
Thank you. We'll be back at 2:30.